Welcome to Let's Talk Franchising, the podcast where we break down everything you need to know to turn your business into a thriving franchise, sell more franchise units, or just become a true franchise expert. I'm Susana Hands, your guide on this journey where we cut through the jargon, share real stories, expert tips, and inside strategies that actually works. Whether you're dreaming about franchising your business, stuck struggling to sell franchises, or simply hungry to learn the secrets of franchise success, you're in the right place. So grab your coffee, get comfortable, and let's dive into today's episode. Let's talk franchising. Trudy Heins is a business coach and strategist with over 36 years of experience in finance and business, including 3 decades as a certified financial planner. She has built and sold multiple businesses and has worked with organisations including GIO and Perpetual, as well as major Australian banks and boutique professional firms. In the last few years, Trudy was engaged to coach franchisees inside a large franchise network, working with both men and women who have often never owned a business before. Her job was to get them thinking and operating like a real business owner, understanding their numbers, wearing every hat the business demands, and making decisions that actually move the needle. First and foremost, thank you for coming on.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Why don't you tell everybody what you actually do and why we're having this conversation today?
Absolutely. So obviously we both met when we both decided to certify as business coaches, and we obviously felt an alignment. Our values were very similar and we were very client-centric at everything we did. So we hit it off regardless of whether, I think we've met only actually face-to-face each other maybe once or twice, but we've kept in contact since then. So you have obviously gone into the franchising world, which is your area of expertise. I come from a background of financial planning. So I retired maybe 3 years ago now, and have built a business coaching business on the back of that. So very much in the numbers, all about, making sure that you understand what your financial circumstances are looking like within your business, and then expanding that out to actually coming in as a consultant as well. So you might have heard of fractional business managers, essentially coming in and taking the part of that person who can help you guide, help you put foundations underneath your business so that you are in a position to be able to scale in the way that you would like. We obviously worked together on a contract that I worked with, and you also were involved with a major franchise in Australia. And that gave me a great background into probably more the challenges of franchisees. And they are the people that I tend to work with, is those smaller operators, I work in that, not the startup, but, those quite small businesses that are looking to scale, but really need some guidance in how to do that. So, yeah.
Knowing their numbers, which is always
100%.
So scary to know that people trade and don't know.
Oh, Susana, you hear it all the time about, directors being taken to the wall because their company is trading insolvent. And a lot of directors don't even know what insolvent means, let alone whether their company is doing that. So not being an ostrich and burying your head in the sand, your numbers control everything in your business, whether you can spend, what what decisions you make, because you need to have a clear return on investment. So if you don't understand those, I would challenge the fact that you actually aren't running your business in the best way or most profitable way that you possibly can.
And because I always bang on about this, if you don't know your numbers and you cannot scale, you cannot get into franchising.
Absolutely.
No way anyone's going to pay for something that doesn't produce money. So
no, that's right. And I think the other thing that often I talk about with clients that I work with is, have you just bought yourself a job? Because often when we actually delve deep into the numbers, they might be thinking, I'm I'm generating an income of X, Y, Z. But like anything, and I equate this back to any sort of investment, is that there needs to be a return, but there also needs to be a reward for the risk. And as we all know, being in business, there is a risk. So just drawing an income is not sufficient. You need that profit to actually reflect, well, this is the risk that I am taking by not working in a 9 to 5 job.
Yes. And they have
So,
making sure that one, they've got insurances, two, they know what they're doing, three, if they don't,
oh,
get a coach.
I cannot tell you how many people that I have worked with over the years now that just go, I didn't actually really understand what a coach does. And so I've now, I'm in the middle of repositioning, because I think people, and we have talked about this a lot, is when you actually label yourself as something, the perception is that people know what that is. And they think a coach like a sporting coach, but a coach in business is often around identifying where those gaps are and being able to lead you to a natural conclusion, not necessarily helping you implement. And so now I kind of will dovetail that in with some implementation as well, because often the things that we can identify and then implement, we can do it really, really quickly rather than wait for you to get it done.
100%. And that's why I say, I mean, I've got a coach. I
Yep.
pay bucks for a coach. And I never thought that somebody with my level of experience will need coaching as well. So I think it's exactly what you say. I mean, I'm a big advocate that I'm not the expert in everything. Yes,
No.
I may know franchising inside out, and you know your numbers inside out, and
Sure.
you structure businesses quite successfully. But there's certain aspects of anyone's business that we aren't the expert in, and that's why I'm so big on find that expert, pay them for what they deserve, because you've got to pay good monies for those experts.
Absolutely.
And
But the experts don't come cheap. And
they
if
don't.
they come cheap, probably not experts.
Yeah, well, you got to have a fine balance, right? You can't be too light on it. But look, I always say they have to give you some kind of level of, one, you got to connect with them. Two, you've got to be able to see the results. And
Oh, absolutely. And I think if you're working with a coach that you're not seeing the shift, then maybe you need to question that. Then it's not, big shifts won't happen overnight. There will be small incremental shifts, and sometimes that can just be a shift in your mindset. One of the things that, if we bring it back to franchisees, one of the things that I saw very early on in the piece with the franchisees that I was working with is a lot of them have come out of that employee-employer arrangement. So they've bought a business, but have never actually run a business and haven't got that, what I like to call the CEO mindset. So often the initial work that we might do is actually in the training of mindset shift to go, well, I now am not, whilst you're part of your team, I have to lead this team rather than, be down the pub on a Friday night drinking with the team. There's a whole different vibe around that. And that, even those small incremental shifts that you might make initially have such a big shift in the long term, because you start thinking like the owner, the leader, all of those sorts of things in business.
Now, I remember when we were working together with this one particular brand, you had a few franchisees who weren't so happy,
Sure.
and you navigated through that. How did you find that, and how did you navigate through all the challenges that they had?
Look, I think, the big thing to understand with each client as you start working with them is really to understand what they want from the business. Because if we are told this is what your business will deliver, or, that doesn't necessarily mean it's aligned to my values and it's aligned to what I want. Mm-hmm. And so the key is understanding, well, do you want a business that's going to allow you to work part-time? Do you want to make $1 billion? What is it that you need? And then taking that and being able to put in place steps that you can achieve your goals. The reason people tend to be unhappy in business is they can't actually, in their head, see a clear direction. So they kind of feel like they're floundering around, not really, I'm getting up, this is a drudge, I'm not really understanding what this looks like when I put it in my future picture. So we need to actually create that picture so they have something to strive for that is meaningful.
Absolutely. I know I always say to people when I'm selling franchises to them, I say to them, what is your golden number that you want to make?
Yep.
or what you want to achieve. And I always talk numbers because they always say, how much can I make in this business? You can't say that, right?
How
But
hard are you prepared to work?
and that's why I say to them, how much do you want to make? Then break it all the way down to the unit economics of how many of those
For sure.
product service you need to
Yep.
sell every day, week, month, and year to get to that golden number, because you've got to know what that unit economics is. And most businesses can tell you what that price is of the product or service you're selling, and then how many of those do you need to sell or do. And that's how I do it. So what I would love to see that when we sell a franchise, we're shifting that information over to yourself that
Yep.
works with those individuals and sets those plans up. So for those franchisors out there that if you have a good trainer that actually listens and puts their plan, every single franchisee's plan in place in that training, you're doing your franchisees an injustice, because you're not planning and you're not training them how to get their goals achieved.
Absolutely. And I think the thing is, if you're not working, if you don't feel that, and this can equate to franchisors, or even in your work life, if you're employed, is that if you don't feel that the person who has potentially control over your income, or your marketing, if you don't feel that they understand what it is that you need, then you're going to be disengaged and demotivated. Whereas a franchisee, if they think, okay, my franchisor understands exactly what I want to achieve out of this, and they give me the tips, the tricks, the guidance to be able to move forward to develop my business in the way that I want it to be, they will be engaged and they will be your biggest advocates, because they will say, hey, I am with ABC Franchise and they get me. They help me build a business that is designed for my life.
Absolutely. You're spot on. And I think that, look, I'm not too familiar in the training space because I don't play too much in. But I do know that when I then speak to my franchisees, there's a lot of disgruntled ones. There's a lot of happy ones, don't get me wrong, but the disgruntled ones, I always have to ask them, what was your expectation of this and why did you get into it? And most of them, let's just be honest, most do it for money. So if money is what's motivating them, there's a reason why they want to make that money. They want to buy their dream home. They want to go spend money on their kids or whatever, do something exciting. But whatever that key may be, they need to understand a plan. And that plan has to be executed by themselves, because that's ultimately who bought the business. But it has to be supported by the franchisor or who they put in place to support those franchisees. So how do you feel that if there isn't someone there that actually understands and supports them, what kind of tips or tricks can you give them so that they can do it themselves?
Sure. And look, I think that, the first thing, Susana, is that it's really important for you to take responsibility for your own destiny, because often, again, coming out of the employee-employer role and moving into a franchise, and I know it's not everybody, but it's almost seen as a smooth transition into business. So it's sort of often the numbers show that a lot of people are coming out of that, and this is their first self-employed gig. So it is understanding that you are responsible for your own destiny. So you need to really, if the franchise isn't offering the support that you need to find it externally, because you need somebody that's going to help you to find your voice so that you can then go back and communicate that to the franchise. What a lot of franchisees, particularly when they first come into the space, don't understand is that because they are so used to being beholden to an employer, their voice matters. They actually are the ones that are helping the franchise be successful. So you need to find your voice, and not in I always say, come to me with a solution, not a problem. I get that there's problems everywhere, but be solution driven. So if I was a franchise and you came to me and said, I can see this gap, this issue, it's not aligning to what I need, here is my solution, then you are coming across as a proactive business owner, not a complainer.
Spot on. And they always say that most franchisees do come with good ideas, and a franchisor should, in most cases, listen And if they aren't going to act because for financial reasons,
Oh, well, there might be a reason.
they have to communicate, and
Correct.
communication is massive. And I feel like if you have that clear communication, if you accept that they have a great idea, but you just can't implement it today, tomorrow, or the next day, that makes them feel like, yep, you've understood me and listening to me, which is what they want. They just want to be heard. But I do like your idea of what you said, that if you're a franchisee and you can't get that support from your franchisor, go and find it. Now, most franchisees, I know because I've been one, most franchisees think that, well, I'm going to pay something extra when I'm already paying all this royalty, and royalty should cover my support, my everything,
Sure.
whatever. So how do you get around that?
Look, I guess, again, I come back to that control of your own destiny. And, one of the things that I, always, it is understanding what you want to achieve out of it. So if it's more time, if it's more money, and as we talked about, it's often more money. A franchise clearly wants you to earn more money because that's where their royalties come in. But you need to understand also that you are responsible for your own marketing. So the franchise will do a very broad scope marketing, but you are in a particular area, there is a particular demographic, and so you need to be investing in understanding what that market looks like, where they hang out, being able to communicate why you're in business and the pain points that you are able to solve. Because ultimately, if you can come to somebody and say, I see you, I hear you, this is where you're feeling pain. Now, whether that's a food franchise that I'm hungry and that's my pain, here's my solution. And I know that, my target audience or the people who I really resonate with are, between 15 and 25. Whatever that is, a coach will help you uncover all of that so that you are, and it's called spaghetti marketing, you are not just throwing stuff against the wall hoping it sticks. You are actually really targeted. So when you do invest either money or time, and as we know, your time is valuable, most valuable commodity, so it is investing. When you are investing that, you are able to go, I'm investing it in the right place, and then you can assess what your return on investment is and if you need to pivot. So that's where a coach can really help you in the more localized stuff. I know I've worked with people, and in just a couple of sessions, they've actually been able to say, I increased my charge out rate or by 2,000% because I knew what the market was doing. And yes, there's some controls and parameters as a franchisee, but there are other things that you can certainly be doing that is going to help you with your profit margins.
It's funny you say that because one of my exercises with my business coach was, do you know what your unit economics is? All your services, do you know exactly to the T of exactly what does it cost you time-wise to do XYZ services? Never really did that exercise. And when I sat down and did it, I went, ooh,
it's critical, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that client's getting a good bargain out of me because, you sort of can see that, okay, that's not making me such good margins in that. Or it means that the time that I'm investing for what the returns are doesn't make no sense. So, you're spot on. And I don't think I've ever learned that inside a franchise. I had to find my own coach to be able to give me that because they have a different view. So I feel like franchisors give you very good training on how to do the product or service you're bought in.
Oh, absolutely, because that's their incentive. They want you to sell more of their widget, whatever that is.
Yep.
So, yeah.
And you just need to be able to have different mind coming into your own business. It's your business, but as long as you're following the model, as long as you're not breaking any regulations, you can go out and find other experts to help you achieve what you want to achieve. Now, Trudy, one more thing that I thought was really interesting, and I have been harping on this about for a while, is the culture inside a franchise, a business. So what's your thoughts around that?
So I guess the culture let's take it from the top. A culture inside the franchisor is responsible for that ultimately. So, as much as I would suggest that you don't get stuck in the weeds and don't necessarily, don't buy into the drama if other franchise, because it's just not going to serve you in any way. So if you have a group of franchisees, if you can't be, as we said, solution driven, be constructive if you're going to come together as a group. Just actually sitting there and, really running the franchise down is not productive for anybody. But as a franchisor, be aware of what's happening at the grassroots of your business as well. Don't ignore it, and don't sit, in this as this sort of overarching business going, well, that's not our problem, because quite frankly, it is. And yeah, as a business owner, I think culture is really important, and it is led from the top down. So couple of things that I would say in that, and again, that CEO mindset shift. You are the leader of the business. You are the leader of the team. Aim to be respected before you are aimed to be liked. Critical, because often what happens is we go into a team and we might, as I said, go out to lunch and have a few too many drinks or whatever that case may be. You do not need your team seeing you at your worst. You are their leader. Think like a leader. Being vulnerable is okay. So actually you're going to the team and saying, look, your sales aren't what we need, blah, blah, blah. I want to talk to you about how we can shift that. That is okay, but don't let them see you, at your worst.
Yeah.
I think when you are recruiting your team, do not recruit in your image.
Okay.
And the reason I say that is that you want to recruit almost the yin to your yang, because you are really good at certain things, and you probably are good at them because you really love them. So let's say it's marketing or networking or whatever. You might be a really high-level strategic thinker, but like me, not great at the detail. Even as a financial advisor, I used to have somebody that would come through and literally check all of my calculations. I was wonderful talking to clients. I was really good at strategic thought processes, putting the jigsaw all together. But, dotting the I's and crossing the T's, I would miss that sometimes because, that's not where I sit in my wheelhouse. So recruit somebody that can do that for you. Don't just recruit a clone of yourself. Otherwise, they will do all the things that you love doing too, and there will be so many things that get missed.
And that's really interesting. They always say that when you're a CEO, you're palming everything off and you have all these experts doing all these expert things, and you just feel like, I look good in this position. Because I've got
look, ultimately, your team will make you look good. So you need to really invest in your team. One thing I would also say, and again, this is something for small business owners, is your team will not love your business as much as you do. So understand that. And they will be potentially invested in the results and all of those sorts of things, but they are not going to lay awake at night thinking about it. They are not going to struggle when, the money may not be flowing as much as you would like it to. So understand where they are coming from, that your business may be the sole focus of your life, but that is not the sole focus of their life. So
what do you do when you've got a owner who becomes like external to their business, and they have a CEO and they have a whole team? Are you saying that the CEO then becomes that person that takes over the care factor for the franchise, for the founder? Or are you saying that owner still has to come in and sort of?
Absolutely. If you want your business to be successful, you need to be present. You don't necessarily need to be present every day, but people are looking for a thought leader and a leader of the business. And if you are not present in that business in some way, shape or form, and I'm not saying you've got to be there 9 to 5, 5 days a week, but if they are not following your vision, how do they know, there is no direction? And that's one of the things that I work with my clients that have got teams of people, is that once a year, I actually get them to sit down, and I'll often facilitate the session and ask them to communicate. And it might be a recommunication of their vision, their values, and what the next 12 months is all about for the business, so that everybody can get on board. They have the opportunity to ask questions. Because if you're not all playing from the same songbook, how on earth? It just makes to me it's the bleeding obvious, but for a lot of people it's not. They kind of and I believe it's the old way of thinking in business, is that there's an aspiration to get to the point where I can literally just have my business run itself. There's a reason why people and particularly buy into your franchise, is because you have created this. They need to see what the next thing is. If you are a visionary and a thought leader, it doesn't just stop there. It's okay, the market is changing. What's your vision now?
Come back and show us, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, I agree. And that leads me to the other question that I always get asked from small business owners approaching their finances, ensuring long-term success. When's the right time to put the right people? How do you figure that out? I know we've had a whole heap of conversations around that, like, when do I make that next move? When do I put that person? So what kind of tips can you give? I know this is more generic, more so.
Yeah, of course.
Also valid for franchisors and franchisees as well, that when they're expanding, when do they know, okay, enough is enough, I'm doing way too much, I need to find somebody else?
Look, I think if you are literally working ridiculous hours, that's a pretty good cue. So one of the things that I have recently done is I've developed a calculator, and this is probably more for people who are in personal services, but it certainly does help in any sort of product business as well, which is your real hourly rate calculator. And it is about essentially saying, if I was on wages, what would I earn? That's the hourly rate. Then let's add in your expenses. Then let's add in your profit. And often, because that shows you actually what you need to be earning to support the whole of the business, your salary, the expenses, and then also the profit margin. And we've talked about the profit margin is actually that return, that risk reward for owning a business. So you go, okay, let's say that's $400 an hour. If you're not sitting in front of clients earning $400 an hour, and you are doing literally a $50 an hour admin job, guess what? Outsource.
Yeah. Okay.
It's as simple as that. And I think there's probably a lot more in it. And look, do I really hate doing that job? You're probably not going to do it well. Can I outsource it for a lot cheaper than, social media, for instance? We outsource that because I don't like it. It's not my jam, but I also can pay somebody to do that for a lot cheaper than what I'm better off talking to people.
100%. And it's usually the owners that are the ones that are the face of the company, which is the ones that should be going out, doing those customer interactions.
Networking, whatever that case may be. So yes, you need to be the person that's visible. Sure, it might mean from a social media perspective, you need to sit for a day and record videos. But when that's done, then get out and do what you do best and have a team that supports you, as long as it's not going to absolutely cripple your cash flow. But it's about doing that balance and understanding, well, if I need to do 3 more of these a week to have somebody, that's how you scale.
Yeah.
You get to a ceiling when it's just you, where you cannot scale anymore. So if you want to scale and you want to earn more money, then you need to have the conversation literally about, how do I build my team out to allow me to do that?
And that's really important. I know I've learned this the hard way, small business owner, then having to scale the face of it, but I can't do both. So it's been a journey, and I've learned from, from having great coaches as well, to be able to show me what does that look like, and when's that time to start bringing that next person. Because and correct me if I'm wrong, most people that you bring into your business are just alleviating time for you to go out and search for more.
Absolutely. Yeah. Until you get to a point where you feel like I don't need any more income. And then you might go, okay, well, I'm bringing people in because I want more time. But it's usually time or money. That's usually your 2 levers. So whatever your lever is, if you're not getting enough money or enough time, then you need to address that.
And the fun fact is that I've always been in sales. So when I used to get employed back in the day, and they used to say to me, so what justifies your massive wait. I said, because I will bring you 5 times more than
That's
what
right.
actually
Yeah,
you're paying me. And if I can't find you that 5 time more income that I am, that I'm costing you, then
sure.
doing my job correctly. And that's really hard for somebody to say that about themselves. I mean, I'm very hard on myself. I always like
Yeah.
to overachieve, but is that a fact? Is it supposed to be 3 times, 5 times, or is it?
I think it depends on the business. And I guess that's probably something that you would work with. A coach would help you understand that, because what you've just said is critical, is setting the expectations up front as well. I'm a big believer of hire slow, fire fast. And I do that with clients. I do that. I do that with staff. Take your time, be really clear about what your expectations are. Make sure you are very clear with them about what their KPIs are going to be. But if they are not cutting the mustard, unless there is some particular reason that they are not in control of, then it's move them on.
Okay. So when you say hire slow and fire fast, when you say slow, what type of things do you do when you're sort of looking at the right person? And what is it that is that jam like that makes?
Yeah, look, I think again, getting back to making sure that they are understanding in your business where the gaps are and plugging the gaps, not just getting more of the same. Because even in a sales role, for instance, as you know, we both have been in sales to some degree, is that the relationship that you build with somebody is not going to be everybody. Some people, you are just not their flavor, and that's okay. So if you've got two salespeople, you might want to, one might be more assertive, the other one might be laid back, in a different style. That allows you to cover a broader scope of the market. Rather than getting two firecrackers, you might need somebody that's a little bit more softer and nurturing. Whatever your gap is, so understand what business you might be missing and how do I plug that? Then write your job specs accordingly, do your KPIs accordingly, talk to your network. And even when the one thing, and it is critical, and I do it all the time, is whenever you're interviewing people, they will give you, I always ask for 3 referees. They will give you 3 referees of people that they've worked with and that love them. Let's face it, you're not going to put somebody who's going to say negative something. Then what you need to do is go back to your network, and this is where I find LinkedIn is amazing. Go back to your network and have a private offline conversation with somebody. Get the real down low on them.
That's an interesting point. And what is it that you're trying to grab or trying to assess?
Well, I just think you want somebody to give you a more candid approach to, and I always say, I ask the standard questions, but would you hire them again, blah, blah, blah. But, what is it that they need improvement in? Because do I have the ability to train them? Do I have the time to train them in that particular gap in that market? So my assistant, for instance, she came on board, she ticked all the boxes, but she didn't have experience in the CRM that we use. That's an easy fix.
Training.
But I knew it. I knew that right up front. So the first thing I did when she came on board that first week was, okay, let's get you trained up in this.
And now she's a champ because she learnt a skill set.
That's exactly right, and don't be scared to invest in your staff. A lot of people tend to be really scared of investing in their training because they think, well, I'm going to train them up and they're going to go away. From a staffing perspective, staff don't leave because you've invested in them. They leave and they don't often leave because of money either. It's culture.
Oh, culture. Okay.
Yeah.
I thought it was because they're not valued.
But not, well, it's that, but and I guess that kind of not valued comes into that culture side of things. If you are reinforcing their value, reinforcing and particularly in a sales environment, and I deal with a lot of professional services people, but so there's the revenue earners, and so clearly they are really well respected in the business, but I always talk to the revenue earners and say, you can't earn the level of revenue that you earn without your support staff. So value them just as much. It's just they are a different cog in the bigger wheel.
Which leads me to that conclusion that your revenue earners are your franchisees. So look after them, people, because they're the ones that are
Absolutely.
driving that money your
Yeah.
way. Without
That's
them,
right. If you want to build your franchise, for goodness sake, listen to what your franchisees are saying, because they are the, boots on the ground, so to speak. They are the ones that are out there hearing it from the day-to-day people. And if you want honest feedback, which we all should aim for, they're going to give it to you. And the only way you can improve and enhance your business is through honest feedback.
and listening.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Two of these, one of these for a reason.
Absolutely. Well, look, Trudy, there's one thing I want to share with you because it's a real big burner topic in the
Sure.
franchising space, lead generation. And
Oh.
the amount of money that our franchise partners or franchisors, I should say, our clients
Yep.
pay to generate leads to convert to a franchise sale and the stats behind it. What's your thoughts around when people say, I spent so much money generating leads? Where is it that you're thinking it has to kind of make sense for them?
Well, obviously, the return on investment is critical. So you need to be able to say, well, if I spent $30 on a lead, plus then my wage, my cost of running the business, what's that amount of money that you actually need to earn to then have your profit on top? So it could be $30, but realistically, you need to be earning $150 to actually cover that cost. So you need to understand that and look at the analysis of things, because I think that's where people, and again, it's a numbers thing that often is a bit overwhelming for a lot of people, is that I don't understand my numbers, so I'm not going to think about it. I don't understand the analysis of it, so I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing and hope that, cross my fingers and hope that it's going to work. If you are spending money at something that is not converting, you need to do it differently. And I go back to the point of then saying, if a franchise is Australia-wide, in each state, in each city, in each country town, business is different. It has its own little idiosyncrasies. So understand that will help you understand how to best position the marketing. So your franchise is going to give you very broad scope marketing. Sometimes in a franchise, you might have the ability to actually say, well, turn that off. I don't want that. I'm prepared to do that on more of a local level, because you could probably, in that instance, with the money you might spend by, sponsoring the local football team, doing something at the local somewhere, or attending networking meetings, or whatever works for you in your area. And that's something for you and your coach to kind of map out a marketing strategy for you. That's probably going to be a better spend of your money than, just expecting, like you look at McDonald's, for instance, they're a national brand, or they're an international brand. And certainly, their marketing is great in that everybody knows what the Golden Arch is. But that's a whole different story to, an Australian franchise that might have, food or what have you, and they might only be in one state. But Sydney versus Wollongong versus Newcastle,
They're like three little cities.
oh, they're like three different countries, really. So, from a client, from a customer perspective, they are.
Yeah.
So what is it that your customer wants in your area, and can you tailor your marketing to that? And can you do your lead generation tailored to that?
So you're going to be very, very impressed with me, but I had to, for a client, look at how many closes I was doing versus how many leads were coming in.
Okay.
So down to the granular of knowing how many leads I need, how many of those convert into a first call meeting,
Right.
discovery day, deposit and close-ins. And when I looked at the stats, because you know me, I'm not a stats person, I was shocked. I was like, oh my God, this looks amazing. So now I'm like, wow, I learned something new. I'm going to do this for all my clients. And it's fascinating when you understand your numbers, how you can understand what you've got to go and get and find to be able to do that conversion the client wants. So I work very differently now. And thanks to all the learnings, yourself and everyone else, that I was able to go down to the granular of how many of them.
And that's what I was saying. Don't be scared of the analysis, because the analysis, whether that be on your Google, whether that be on your website, whether that be your social media, they all tell a story. And I know that we've just made a big shift, for instance, where I've looked at the analysis on our social media of another business that I run and just gone, gosh, the amount of time that we spend creating that and doing that for the traction that we're getting, we're better off over here. We're better off spending our time here. And it is really important that you understand that, because otherwise you're wasting time and money. And as we've talked about, time and money are something that people just don't have endless pots of.
You're spot on. You're spot on. So last question I have for you.
Sure.
In your experience, what are the essential ingredients required to run a business successfully?
Okay, now I made some notes on this one because it was really critical, and there's a few things. Clarity is probably the first thing. So you need to know what you're building, who is it for, and what success looks like for you. Not your accountant, not your family, not your franchise. What is success all about for you? You need an awareness. So the awareness is, as we've talked about, your numbers, your market, your strengths, what your team looks like and where the gaps are, and what is actually happening in your business at any one time. So we talked about some of these leaders that actually exit the business. How on earth can you know what's going on in your business if you are not in there in some way, stretch? Passion.
Big one, isn't it?
Yeah, because you are going to have it is a roller coaster in business. So you're going to have up and down days. And if you can't hold and bring yourself back to that passion for what you're doing, it's going to be really difficult. And often it's not just a day roller coaster. When things are not going well, it can just seem like that compounds, day on day on day. So you need to, in that core of yourself, have that passion to be able to bring yourself back to, why am I doing what I'm doing? Stamina. You are not going to get amazing results in the first month. You might. That would be great if you did. But the reality is that business is a marathon. It is not a sprint. And you need to be able to marathon that out to build it for consistency. Know your numbers clearly. I think we've demonstrated why that is so important. Know your target client.
Yes.
Know who they are, where they're hanging out. Stop trying to be all things to all people. Because I know when I initially start working with clients, it is very much, tell me about who you speak to. And it could be, I'm selling, I don't know, selling pest control, for instance. Well, if I'm not buying a house, you're a pest report. If I'm not buying a house, I'm not your client. And I always, and hang out where your client is. If I'm your target client, don't put stuff on TikTok because, quite frankly, I'm not going to see it. Be where I am.
100%. That's a massive one. I know people, my daughter goes to me, why do you always post on Facebook, Mum, and LinkedIn? I was like, because most of my people hang out there. They don't
Absolutely.
on Instagram. But look, let's face it, Instagram's out there and whatever. You just got to be,
but again, understand where they are and spend where they are. Go there. So, if you're in a small country town, go to the local football because they're often there. So, put a sign up on the football field or whatever. Go where the visibility is for the people that you want to attract.
That's a good one.
Know your own lane. Don't try it.
That's a huge one. I know that because we've all been there where we go, right, we can do this and we can do this. And I've got people out there that go, I'm going to do lead generation and I'm going to sell it for you. Have you ever sold a business before? I go, no. What it takes to sell a franchise.
Oh,
you do not know what you don't do. Don't do it. Please do yourself a favor, stick to your lane because I know I'm not the expert in everything and I stick to my lane. So
that's right. And I'm going to bring it back to obviously, what I think is super important. Know when to ask for help.
Pretty cool, right? Because I think everyone feels embarrassed to ask when they're not good at something or they feel like they're failing whatever because they ask for help. And I'm also like,
oh, no. I think the more vulnerable you can be in that instance, the more people will actually step up and try and help you. So if you need more leads, and it doesn't even necessarily mean that it's got to be, ask for help with a coach. But if you think your network can help you, whether that be your family, put something on your personal Facebook, just say, look, I really need your help here. And one of the challenges I always put to, particularly start out business is say, they build this beautiful website, they build a beautiful, Facebook page. Are you posting that on your personal Facebook page? No. Why? Are you embarrassed by your business? Because your first leads are going to come from people who know and trust you. So you are crazy not to tap into that. People want to support you. Give them the opportunity.
Spot on. Well, Trudy, you know what? You have been an absolute champ. I really enjoy our chats. You come with so much wealth of knowledge, and I absolutely enjoy all of our catch-ups because you just always entertain. It's so much insight that I'm like, oh, I haven't thought about that one, and that's a good one. I'm going to go and share that. So I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Susana, and I appreciate you. You are an amazing coach, in the franchise space, and you certainly you've introduced me to some amazing people, and I really do. I think that's what makes the world go round, right? Is that collaboration of owning your space, understanding what you're great at, but helping to lift people, that you can along the way. So, I'm pleased that you are in my world. Thank you very much.
And I appreciate you being here. And I'm sure we're going to have more of Trudy throughout our episodes. So if you want to hear more topics and you want to learn more, let me know. And I'm sure I can invite Trudy. She can come back and speak about a specific topic.
I would love to do that. Thank you for the invite.
Thank you. That's a wrap for today's episode of Let's Talk Franchising. Thanks so much for hanging out with me, diving into franchising with me. If you've got something valuable out of this, do me a favor, hit subscribe, leave a review, and or share with anyone who you feel could do really well with listening to this. Got any questions or ideas for future episodes? Send them my way. I'd love hearing from you. Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and of course, keep talking franchising.